Welcome back guys, today I will show you the best build you can now make for patch 1.5 in Cyberpunk 2077. With this build you will actually be able to one-shot every single enemy in Night City and you will actually deal the same damage as in patch 1.3. Since crit chance and crit damage has been nerfed into the ground in patch 1.5, we will now use different new multipliers to get the same damage as before. And one of the biggest damage multipliers you can use in Cyberpunk is the out of combat damage multiplier, which is around 4 times the damage as long if you're staying out of combat. But how do we actually stay out of combat? A lot of people would probably think we have to use a sniper rifle. But using a sniper rifle is really bad in Cyberpunk. After you shoot with any kind of sniper rifle, you will be immediately detected and you're in combat. Your enemies will immediately run away, start shooting at you, and the reload time will definitely not help in beating these enemies. Even the Overwatch sniper rifle, which claims to have a custom integrated silencer, is simply not silent. The silencer is simply not existent. One method to actually stay out of combat is to use an assault rifle and equip it with a real silencer. When you then shoot from the same position, your enemies will not know where you're standing, they will not know where the shots are coming from. You can simply take your time and one-shot everyone because they are not even running away. Since your damage is connected to the fire rate of your weapons, the best weapon to do that is the slowest shooting assault rifle, because that will have the highest damage for a single bullet. And the slowest shooting assault rifle is the Ajax or the Moron Lob. And if you have to go inside a building at some point, you can use a second method to stay completely out of combat. If you use your Optical Camo and the Sandevistan mod, you will make every enemy completely freeze and yourself invisible. And the Sandevistan will also prolong your time of invisibility. So when you then go inside a room, everybody will not be able to move, not be able to see you, and you can simply deal a headshot to everyone which is in that room. And you will have plenty of time to explore the entire room and kill everyone. For this close combat engagement, I would recommend you to use the Death and Taxes pistol, because the Death and Taxes pistol does 2 other game-breaking things. The Death and Taxes pistol shoots 2 bullets instead of 1 bullet, and every one of this bullet is actually dealing the full damage. And by using the Death and Taxes pistol, which shoots 2 bullets, you will also fix your crit chance. If you have a 66% crit chance, you actually have a 33% fail rate. If you multiply 33 with 33, you have a 10% fail rate that both bullets will fail your crit hit. So you have a 90% chance that at least one of your bullets will make a critical hit. And we also have the headshot multiplier, which is now even much more important than our critical damage. So whenever there is headshot, go for headshot instead of crit. You can consider this build the unkillable ghost mode god mode cheat, because it is no less than that. Playing with this build will be incredibly satisfying, because you can just go into any location, climb on a roof and one-shot everybody which is out there in the open. And if you're done with that, you can just go inside, use your Death and Taxes, activate Camo, activate the time dilatation and one-shot everyone which is inside the building as well. This also works very perfect for the NCPD scanner locations, because the time dilatation and the camouflage is so long that you can do the entire location, kill off everyone with the Death and Taxes before the camouflage is actually over. That is probably the fastest and easiest way to do all these NCPD locations. This build will make very hard, even in patch 1.5, again very easy for everyone. So let's first take a look at the gear for this build. I only use 2 weapons here, and you can fill the third slot with whatever weapon you like to play with. But I definitely recommend you to use these 2 weapons. Let's first talk about the Death and Taxes pistol. I equipped the new Kanotsugu sight because it gives me a very clear view and also a very good range. Of course you could equip the Advantage, that gives you even more range, but the Kanotsugu has a much clearer view, so I definitely prefer that one. The second attachment will of course be a silencer, because we want to stay out of combat and use the out of combat damage multiplier. The silencer alone will provide 2.5 times of the out of combat damage multiplier, and then you have to add your cool levels, because every cool level will give you an additional 10%. So that means you will get a 4.5 times damage multiplier if you use a silencer and have a maximum cool level. That is the highest out of combat damage multiplier you can get, and this multiplier is only applied if you actually use a silencer. Going for one of these green silencers to actually increase your crit chance is not really viable, because crit chance and crit damage is barely even doubling your damage in patch 1.5, and you will have enough crit chance from using the death in Texas and using your Sandevistan mod anyway. So just go with the blue silencer and use a lot of crunch mods. For the second weapon, of course, we use the legendary iconic Ajax or Moron Lab, and I equip it with a clear view optics cause I find the clear view to be easiest when you want to make long range headshots. Of course, the main goal is to misuse your assault rifle as a real long range sniper rifle, which is actually silent. And for that we also equip the blue silencer, which gives us the highest damage but still maintains entirely silent. We also use all 4 slots to increase our damage with crunch mods, because we can't even dream of any good crit chance with assault rifles anyway. All the mod slots in our closing will be filled with legendary armadillo mods, except for one exception, which is in our eye gear. Because in our eye gear we can use a Fortuna, a Deadeye or a Bully mod. And I found it best to use a Deadeye until I realized that these 15% headshot damage are somehow not applied to my weapon. So I actually settled with a Fortuna mod instead of the Deadeye, but I would actually recommend Deadeye if it is fixed. In our legs and in our shoes, of course, we also go for armadillos. That is the only viable option. All the other stuff is still not worth using. Except if you had the option to go for Deadeye or Bully, which we don't have in patch 1.5, sadly. To actually make other things viable, we would need more than just having elemental resistance, which we are immune to anyway. We will need some real physical resistance or a complete mitigation that does more than just reducing 10% of your damage. But now let's check out the Cyberware. If you go for maximum body and maximum reflex, you unlock the most legendary Cyberware in the game. That is much better than just focusing on intelligence. If you go for 18 or 20 body, you will even be able to add a legendary bioconductor or legendary skeleton. That will give you a total of 13 legendary Cyberware mods. You will have only 2 options for your frontal cortex if you don't go for any intelligence, but we don't want to use intelligence, we don't want to use a Netrunner OS, we want to use a Sandevistan OS. And this is one of the best Sandevistan OS in the game, the Quint Sandevistan Mark IV. You can get this from Fingers in the Cherry Blossom market, so make sure that you never punch this guy, because he is selling you one of the best Cyberware in the game. By activating this item, you will slow down the game to only a quarter of the speed that it usually has, which makes all enemies basically freeze instantly. And you will immediately get 15% additional damage, 15% additional crit chance, and you can further increase it by stacking more mods into it. It has an insane cooldown of only 7 seconds, so that means that every 7 seconds I can activate the complete God mode with high crit chance, high damage, and immediately freeze enemies again. And that is achieved by using 2 legendary Sandevistan heatsinks, which both reduce the cooldown by 4 seconds, and then we put another 5% crit chance mod into that Sandevistan. We can only put one 5% crit chance mod in that item because it only recognizes 1. You cannot put 2 or 3 inside it. But that will give you a whopping 20% crit chance in total if you activate that item. It freezes your enemies, it makes you completely invincible, and you can use it every 7 seconds. You could even further reduce the cooldown to be even 4 seconds, which is totally game breaking. If you ever used one of these Sandevistan mods, you will never use a Netrunner OS again. And we are still able to use 2 legendary Cyberware mods in our frontal cortex. The first one will be the legendary 10% heal on kill, which is really awesome, and then the 50% damage to drones and robots. The last slot will be unfilled, but that shouldn't be a concern at all. For our optics we will use the epic Kiroshi ones, which is the best one, you can get them from Victor, and we will use 3 trajectory analyzers. That gives us 25% headshot damage each. You could of course also go for the weak spot detection, which gives you 2% crit chance, but having 75% headshot damage in your optics is actually way better than having 6% crit chance. We will get that crit chance from our Sandevistan OS anyway. We will use the legendary blood vessels for faster health regeneration, the second heart will revive us when we get killed, and the bioconductor will reduce all the cooldowns by 20%. And if you get body 18, you can even get the legendary bioconductor, which will reduce all the cooldowns by 30%. and that will include your Sandevistan, Second Heart and your Camouflage mod. In the immune system we use a Detoxifier, which makes you completely immune against poison. We also use a Caterist, but you are already immune versus poison, burning and shock anyway. In the nerve system we use the Synaptic Accelerator and the legendary Reflex Tuner. For your armor we will use a Fireproof Coating, then we use the legendary Optical Camo and the legendary Armor mod. The legendary Optical Camo will be working for another 9 seconds if you use it together with your Sandevistan mod. That will give you a total of 24 seconds of invisibility, which is absolutely overpowered. The cooldown is only 45 seconds, or with the legendary Bioconductor it will be only 40 seconds. The other side of the Cyberware is actually very unspectacular, because we only get the titanium bones as usual because we want to increase our carry capacity. We get the epic skeleton. Of course, if you go for 20 body you could get the legendary skeleton for 60% health increase, but the epic ones are just fine, to be honest. The hands are not important in this build. We don't use any ricochet damage and we also don't use smart weapons, so pick what you want, but you will likely never use it. The arm mods as well are not really important. You can go for Mantis Blades just for fun, or use your Gorilla Arms for the beat on the bruts. But definitely go for the double jump, that is probably the most useful item for your legs. Now let's check out the skill points. As I already mentioned, to get the most out of this build or out of this game, I recommend you not to put any points into intelligence. If you do that, you can max out all the 3 above, the tech, reflex and body at the same time. By maxing out body, reflex and tech, you will get the most and best cyberware in this game. You can open every door, you can get every crafting spec and you can craft every item in this game. On the other hand, if you invest your last 4 points into cool, you can further increase your out of combat damage for every point you put into cool. But I would probably go for 20 body as well, because then you can use it for shotguns, for handguns, for assault rifles, for blades, for melee weapons, even for tech weapons. That is the most versatile build you can probably make. In the body tree at this point you should go for anything that increases your health or carrying capacity, or that speeds up your regeneration capacity, because this build is not a melee build and we have enough stamina anyway. In the reflex tree we'll pick some more specific perks here, for example the Savage Stoic, which gives you 35% damage when standing still. Now, that is an amazing perk and it is unlocked at level 20. Then go for the normal damage increase for your assault rifles, go for Bullseye, 10% damage when aiming with assault rifles, and go for the 25% damage for everyone which has more than 50% health, which every of our enemy will have anyway. In the handgun tree we will go for Brain Power, increases your crit chance every time you make a headshot. We will go for OK Coral for giving us a little bit more damage, High Noon for another crit chance for pistols. Then we go for Rio Bravo, which increases our headshot multiplier by 15%. Desperado increases our maximum damage with pistols by 10%. Westworld increases crit chance with pistols when fully modded. After you are finished with all your crafting, of course you can remove a lot of points from the tech tree, but you should definitely keep the Field Technician, that gives you 10% more damage for crafted weapons. You should go for the Cutting Edge, that gives you another 5% damage for every crafted weapons, and of course go for the Edge Runner Artisan, because that is even needed to use your crafted legendary weapons. In the engineering tree you only have to get Insulation if you don't use tech weapons, because that grants you complete immunity to shock. In the cool tree you should go for Assassin, which gives you 15% damage to every human enemy, then go for Silent and Deadly, that gives you 25% more damage when sneaking, and sneaking means simply that you have to crouch. So if you crouch with your assault rifle and just aim at someone, you will get 25% more damage with that perk. The other 2 perks are working in the same way. As soon as you crouch with your character you get an increased movement speed, and you also get more crit chance just when you press the crouch button. If you go for 12 points on cool, you could also use From the Shadows. That will give you 20% crit chance when entering combat. But actually it is much more beneficial to stay out of combat and enjoy your high out of combat damage multiplier. The only really useful perk in the Cold Blood tree is actually the Easy Out at this point, because that will give us 20% damage for all our ranged weapons, which includes our pistol as well as our assault rifle. Of course feel free to modify this build and adapt it to your own playstyle. This is just a raw draft for what you can actually achieve if you play with silenced weapons. This build breaks the game in so many ways that I don't think there is any better build possible right now with patch 1.5. Maybe it can just be a bit optimized, but I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.